Hello, my name is Wayne Keynes and I'm the president for BELCO. Presenting with me, I have Nadir Wade. Nadir is the managing director for our bulk generation part of our business, and we have Ms. Shelley Lehman. Shelley Lehman is the managing director for our TD&R part of our business. In April 2020, our North Power Station was commissioned. This is a plant that is responsible for just over 56 megawatts of power in our country. That's just about half of the power that we consume in our country.
This journey started way back in 2011, and when we recognized that there was going to be a need to continue to provide Bermuda with a reliable supply of electricity. And upon realizing that, we realized that there was a need to retire our old assets that were having significant costs to maintain, as well as creating safety and reliability problems. And then we had the advent of the North Power Station in order to offset what we knew we were going to be retiring in terms of our generation. It is an efficient plant, it is an effective plant, it is a plant that is very much performing as it relates to the reliable supply of generation. In order to become a more sustainable company or even a sustainable country, we have to continue to have a reliable supply of electricity.
What are some of the benefits? The benefits is that we had an engine that was more efficient. It allowed us over a period of time to decommission a number of our engines. At one point we had 14 engines running, now we have 8. This allows us to protect the environment, to be more sustainable. Most recently, we had an event where soot went in one of our neighborhoods. This is something that has caused great consternation in our community and something that we are most sorrowful for. We would like to share with you what we have done and keep everything in perspective for our community. I'm going to ask our Nadir Wade just to highlight some of those issues and concerns with the North Power Station.
Thank you, Wayne. I appreciate that, and I'll just take a step back. When you mentioned fuel efficiency, I want to be very clear and just mention to the public is that the fuel efficiency actually allows us to burn less fuel while producing the same amount of electricity for those homes in Bermuda. Ultimately, the problems that we've had has to do with soot fallout. Over a period of months since April 2020, we've been having these ongoing issues. And in June 2020 was when we first got a real sense of the matter. Since then, we've taken a 2 to 3 phase approach in terms of addressing the problem. In phase 1, where we replaced our shims to improve combustion, that process took 8 months, which we believe solved the problem by 20% or improved the problem by 20%. Our second phase of improving combustion then relied on optimizing the engine to change piston crowns. That was a 12-month process. When we look at ordering the parts and getting those to Bermuda, that takes time. The installation of piston crowns. The installation of piston crowns and the installation of shims have helped us to improve the combustion of the engines and the combustion process, which is ultimately causing the soot problems in our neighborhood. While we're taking this 12-month to 8-month process to fix problems, we have to understand that there's also an operational need that requires us to provide Bermuda with reliable electricity. This requirement has us only able to take out perhaps an engine at a time in order to maintain our reliability, in order to provide the island with the power that it needs. This is a responsibility that we take on each and every day, and we understand that there is a balance. We continue to work to make these improvements, and there have been significant improvements. The occurrences of the excessive fallouts that were being experienced 2 years ago are not what we are experiencing today. What we are experiencing today are isolated events of fallout, not fallout due to our day-to-day operation. Typically, when the neighbors see these particular issues in the immediate neighborhood, it has to do with unfavorable wind conditions. So we have been, one, starting the engines on a different, lighter fuel to mitigate the impacts of soot fallout. We've also been looking at the weather conditions to see if it's favorable to start up the engines. But we also are trying to balance that with providing a reliable source of supply to meet the demand that Bermuda requires. It's really important that our neighbors and our community understand that we're not going to rest until this problem is resolved. We have our teams working diligently, as they have been throughout the last 2 years, working very hard night and day to help us to resolve this problem. We will continue to do that with pursuing other options for solutions. For example, our next steps are to look at reprogramming the engines for startup to begin to address these isolated events. We are also looking at new integrated technology that we can put onto our plant that will help to mitigate and remove the last 20% of this problem that we have, that the neighbors are experiencing. So we're not going to rest on our laurels. We will continue to do what we need to do to have the MPS have as little to no impact on the neighbors as possible. And while we do that, we're going to continue to do that as we step towards our sustainable journey. We also had fume problems along St. John's Road, where we installed a filtration system to mitigate the fumes that the neighbors were experiencing. So over a period of 9 to 12 months, we've been going through a step-by-step process to address the issues of soot fallout as well as fumes that were propagating in the immediate neighborhood.
Over the last 2 years, we have been doing things to make sure the plant runs efficiently, cost effectively, and runs efficiently from an engineering perspective. And this has been problematic. We, as Nadir has just highlighted, have done a number of things to mitigate and to put specific elements in place, and that remains a work in progress. We understand that this process has not been easy for the neighbors. What we can say is, number one, when we hear people saying publicly and privately that BELCO doesn't care, that is not correct. Number two, we do care. You are our family, you are our community, we are a Bermudian team. Number two, when they say BELCO isn't doing anything, that again is incorrect. We've heard from Nadir about the piston crowns, about the shims, about us making sure that the oil treatment plant has a covering on it. All of those things have had a significant effect on the emissions, on the particulates that are going in people's houses. We believe we have localized it to startup, and we've localized the problem to when the engines are shut down. The journey that we're going on ultimately ends with us. We would love to be the provider for Bermuda for a wind farm. We also want to invest heavily in solar. And so this is a company that understands that, yes, we are in a residential neighborhood, but we have a responsibility to move towards sustainability. We have a clear plan. In the near term, we have something called a battery energy storage system. That is something that allows us to be more energy efficient.
The battery energy storage system is something that we also undertook over the last 2 years. At the same time that we were decommissioning some of our assets, we looked out, and we were leaders in the space in terms of battery energy storage. And we have a system right now, 10 megawatts, that sits over close to Dandytown, and it's in our GT complex. And the battery energy storage system is designed such that it's replacing some of our reliance on spinning reserve. So historically, we had to run additional engines to supply power in the event that one of our engines tripped or we had an issue. It basically backup energy supply for the island. And by deploying our battery energy storage system, it means that we burn less fuel because we're not having to run those engines. And it means that we've got a cleaner, more efficient, we're saving on fuel, we're saving costs that we have to pass on to the consumer. Mm-hmm. So that's something that we led in this space, and our battery energy storage system actually won awards in the Caribbean for being first.
The long-term strategy is offshore wind. And so to our neighbors and to our stakeholders, we will continue to work to make sure that our engines are more efficient. You matter. The exceedancies will stop. But we know that in the interim, we must continue to make sure that we continue to march to make sure that the neighborhood is safer, that you are not being plagued with smells, and that you do not get particulates or droplings or rust on your roof. Shelley, can you share with us what we've done to mitigate, to compensate, to help with the neighborhoods?
We definitely have a relationship with our neighbors, and that's been ongoing for several years, going back to the 1990s, as a matter of fact. Some of the stuff that we've been doing more recently, we've held town halls, we've been engaging with the Bermuda Clean Air Coalition. We've been taking walks in the neighborhood, engaging with our neighbors, having conversations with them to understand what are the challenges. Over the last 2 years, we have undertaken almost 400 roof paintings. We have cleaned cars. We've installed water filtration systems. We manage an ambient air quality monitoring program, and we have monitoring stations at various locations surrounding our plant. In conducting our ambient air quality monitoring, we adhere to the clean air regulations here on island. However, we are aware that there is a move to change to more stringent regulations around our sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, particulate matter standards. And those standards come from the UK, and we actually welcome those. We have continued to comply with all of the regulations that have been set forth, and that's part of us trying to move towards a sustainable future as well. Overall, we're engaging with our neighbors, and I have to give a big shout out to members of Nadir's team, who's our OHSE team. So the likes of Mark and Cassie are out there. They respond to all the calls from the neighbors, the emails from the neighbors. And for us, it is, as Wayne said, this is our family. These are our neighbors. We are engaged. We know. We go out there. We see the impact that it's having. And for us, we want to try and mitigate that. And those are the steps that the team are now undertaking in the operations space.
We have to accept responsibility for the exceedances. Twin Lane, Euclid Avenue, Ocean Lane, we understand the inconvenience that has been caused, and we want to say that we are sorry. It is not something that we've taken lightly. We will not walk away from our responsibilities. You are our stakeholders, and you are our partners. For the last 116 years, we've brought an uninterrupted supply of power to the people of Bermuda. We understand that we must grow, that we must change, that we must adapt. We look forward to developing a system of sustainability that we can all be proud of. We are listening, we are changing, we are morphing. We believe that sustainability is in our future. We're on this journey together. We will continue to strive. When it's time to hold us in account, we will stand up and be held accountable. When it's time to innovate, we will innovate. When it's time to lead, we will lead. This is a team of your brothers and your sisters. We are a Bermudian team, and we love to serve you, and we're thankful to you for the opportunity. Thank you for being patient with us. Thank you for understanding. We will continue to thrive, we will continue to strive, and we will continue to grow. Thank you.